Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bible Tidbits YouTube channel. I'm glad you joined us today. Today I want to talk about something that I am deeply passionate about, and that is reaching the next generation for Christ. I'm a youth pastor at my local church. I've been serving in this position for 4 years now, and I go to camps every summer. I spend every week I am with youth. I'm discipling them. I'm teaching them on our midweek service, Sunday school, all of it, going to their games, developing relationships, Bible studies. And I love it. But whenever I started out youth ministry, I couldn't convey my philosophy for how I thought this should be. And that created some difficulties to me because I think that a lot of the ways that the world is trying to do youth ministry, trying to reach that next generation, I think they're taking the complete wrong approach. I think they are going the wrong direction, and I think it's showing in a lot of their ministries. I think they see these youth, they're like, well, they can't handle the deep truths, so we're going to give them the shallow truths, we're going to entertain them, and at least they're going to be in church. But I think we miss so much when we do that. And whenever I started, I couldn't convey those things. I couldn't convey what I felt youth ministry should look like. And that led to some issues for me because there was people around me that were giving me ideas like, well, we should do this. And I'm like, no, that doesn't seem to line up with the Bible. That doesn't seem to line up with what we should be doing. And I tried to find a way to convey what I desired for them. And this eventually led to me stumbling into a little bitty booklet called Amaze Them with God by Kevin DeYoung. And that booklet is no longer in print, but thank goodness Crossway is now publishing their own version. This one's called Reaching the Next Generation by Kevin DeYoung. I picked up this book, and after I read it, I realized it's the exact same book. So great little booklet. And I'm going to be talking about some of the points that come in this, and I'll be linking this below. But yeah, after I found out this was the same one, I bought like 10 copies, and I just passed them out to a lot of my helpers. And I need to order more because I have some new helpers now. But this is such a great resource to us, and it helped me to put words to what I was thinking youth ministry should look like. And there is so much that goes on. You know, we can throw the pizza parties, we can have the greatest games, we can throw a rock concert of a worship service. But those things are often missing the point. That's trying to win them over with all these gimmicks. You know, having great social media campaigns and having the best pictures that you've made on Canva, all those things, I think are missing the mark of what we really should be focusing on. But in respect to that, I spend time on Canva and post on social media. I spend time coming up with games. I spend time trying to get the kids some sort of small entertainment value, but that's kind of the pre-service. That's kind of the stuff we do before, just to help them have a good time and want to come to church and associate good memories with those times in church. But those are minor things. And I think we need to major on the major things and minor on the minor things. And so this book talks about some of those major things. The first thing it talks about is that we need to grab them with passion. We need to bring in these students with passion. We need to show them our passion for the Word of God and for the gospel and for sharing and for discipleship. Whenever they see the passion, they're going to want to be there more and more. They're going to be more curious. They're going to ask more questions. It's kind of like if you've ever had a teacher that didn't like the subject they were teaching. They're kind of hard to listen to. They didn't like it. You didn't like it. Nobody was having fun in that moment. But then you get a teacher who absolutely loves their subject. Even if it's the most boring thing to you, it's still something you can listen to easier. It's still something that you're going to be more curious about. My best example of this is whenever I was in college, I had to take some law classes. And one of my law classes, it was just the most bone dry. It was about zoning laws. And it was just so boring to me. But the professor I had for that class absolutely loved zoning law. The weirdest thing to love, I thought. But man, I could listen to him talk about it all evening. It was a late night, long class. It's a couple hours long, once a week, every evening. But I could listen to him talk about it all those times. I never skipped. I always was there because his passion grabbed me about it. And I learned so much more than I would have otherwise if he was not passionate about it, because I would not have paid attention. In the same way, we need to be passionate about the Word of God. We need to be passionate about the gospel. And when they see that passion, that's going to grab them. It's going to bring in those younger generations, and they're just going to see that, and they're going to desire that, because that's what they're after. They're after something to be passionate about, something to give their all to. And when they see something that you are doing that with, They're going to be curious. And the next thing it talks about, after it talks about grabbing them with passion, it talks about holding them with love. And I think that's something that sometimes we overlook. But man, we got to show these kids that we love them. We got to show the next generation our love for them and how that love stems from the Bible, how we have a deep concern for their eternal souls. And that's the love that we're trying to show them. You know, when we grab them with passion, we'll hold them there with that love. We will challenge them. You know, we will push them in all these other respects. But they're not going to stay around if they don't think we love them. If they don't think we truly care for them, then they're not going to stick around. And that is one of the biggest things I think we need to focus on. Once we are showing our passion, we're loving them. Well, the next thing he talks about in that book is to hold them. So we grab them with passion, we show them our love, and then we hold them there with holiness. Our own personal holiness needs to show through to the next generation. You know, we can live holy lives, but if it's not visibly holy to them, they're not going to see it and they're not going to understand it. They're not going to grasp it. You know, sometimes what this looks like in my own ministry is these kids, they will ask me some things, and I say, no, I don't do that, and here's why. And showing them I'm trying to live a holy life. You know, I'm not doing certain things. I'm not listening to certain songs. I'm not going to certain events because I'm pursuing holiness, and I know those things are not pushing me towards holiness. And I'm very transparent with them about that. And I think we need to be more transparent with that next generation about that. Because if not, they aren't going to see the importance of holiness in our lives, and they're not going to see the importance of holiness in their own lives. And that leads me to point number 4 that he brings up in this book. And this is something that I'm just so deeply passionate about. That's to challenge them with truth. So often I hear people say, well, these kids, they can't handle that truth. When I say kids, I'm just speaking about the younger generation here. You know, they can't handle the truth. They can't handle things that deep. You know, we need to soften it up, water it down. We need to add more entertainment, more worship, more, you know, do life with them. And we need a little less of the work because they just can't handle it. That's what people say. But I think that is so wrong. These kids can handle so much gospel truth, so much truth from the Bible. And we need to just be constantly pushing them in that more and more, giving them more and more, feeding these kids. In my lessons I do at our midweek service, that's our primary youth service aimed at youth. There is truth for everybody there. Every student there will be able to grasp some truth from it. The gospel is shared each and every week in those lessons. But there's challenges. There are things that for those kids who have not been coming along, they're not going to understand. But hopefully through my passionate teaching, they're going to wonder, they're going to question. Maybe they'll go ask questions so they can understand better after. Or maybe just through the time of coming, they'll grow in their strength or grow in their knowledge, and they will be able to see what I'm speaking of more and more. But those kids who've been coming for years and are starting to understand, it's still challenging them as well. We need to give them the deep theology. I heard one time a person who was kind of giving a seminar type thing on, you know, doing youth ministry, saying we need to leave behind theology and the isms and, you know, just focus on Jesus. And like, yes, we need to focus on Jesus, but Jesus is theology. He is the isms. He is all those things. You know, those things separate from Jesus, there's so much missing there. We need to give these students the deep theological truths because that's what they're craving. If we don't give them depth, something else will. If we don't give them something to be passionate about, something else will. There's so many different movements in the world, and you know, all these young people, they're hungry after something. They're hungry after a community, hungry after something to belong to, hungry after something that's deep and real. And if we don't give that to them through the Word of God, they're going to find it somewhere else. So we need to challenge them with truth. I mean, deep, deep truth. We need to push them hard. There are times where I believe I'm pushing the youth harder than maybe some adults could handle, but that's okay. Because if they can take it, let's do it. Let's push them as far as they can go. I don't have very long with them. We need to push them. We need to show them the value of this. We need to challenge them with truth. Then the 5th point here, which is where the title of the first edition of this came out, we need to amaze them with God. We need to truly show them how amazing and awesome God is, how powerful and sovereign He is. And we need to show them how much we are just so passionate about that. We need to show them God. Because here's the thing, we can run great social media campaigns. We can have awesome, entertaining services. But if we aren't showing them God, if we aren't amazing them with God, we are missing the mark. That's what we need to be majoring in. It's just amazing these students, challenging with truth, but amazing them with God. Each and every aspect. And this isn't just for youth pastors or people leading the youth Sunday school class. This is for the small group helpers. This is for just the church members, the people that are you're around youth, everybody. If we're doing these things, we can win that next generation. Maybe there's just one younger person that you know. And you do these things just to reach that one person. Maybe you are a youth minister and you have a large youth group. These are things we can focus on. You know, like I said, I gave this book out to all of my small group helpers because, you know, a lot of them, they're just coming and sitting around on Wednesday night helping me watch the students. And that's an important job, and I need them for that. But they have a role to play in this. And so we need to show them how great our God is. You know, there's so many things in the world that can bring in students. We can get an awesome, humongous youth group. I did that once. I got one of the biggest youth groups that around, but we weren't quite amazing them with God. We weren't quite showing them the truth at that moment. And now I'll say that's not as entertaining. It's not as fun. We don't have as many kids showing up. But guess what? Every student we have showing up, they know the God I serve. They know what he's about. They know that I love him. They know that I'm passionate about this. They know some deep truths about him, and they know that they need him. You know, when we focus on the gospel, when we are amazing, when we're challenging them with truth, that's the basis we need to form. That's the things we need to major on. That's the things we need to focus on. And after that, if we have some time, let's throw in some games. Let's launch some social media stuff to try to get some more kids coming. But don't waver on these things. Don't neglect these things. Don't neglect the word of God and challenging them with that truth. Because if we neglect those things, we're missing the mark. And in those things, that's what's going to reach this next generation. That's what's going to bring them in, what's going to hold them. And while they're there, we got to share the gospel with them. We got to push the gospel to them over and over and over and pray that they would come to faith in Jesus Christ. That's how we're going to reach the next generation. It's not going to be through awesome worship concerts. It's not going to be through our social media. It's not going to be through our games. It's not going to be through, you know, our personal, how we dress and how cool we are to the kids. None of that stuff is going to win them to Christ. It's being passionate. It's loving them. It's showing them the truth, challenging them with that. It's living holy lives ourselves, and it's amazing them with God. That's the things that are going to win the next generation. And that's what we need to focus on. Everybody has a role to play with this. You know, the next generation might be different for you. To me, it's youth and the children's ministries. You know, that next generation to you might be your college ministry, might be your young adult ministry. But whatever it is, these are the steps we need to take. We need to not waver from them. We need to give up the gimmicks. There's a book about that. I haven't read it, but we need to give up those gimmicks. We need to focus on God and showing him to them. And guess what? He'll show up and he will do the work. So I'm going to link this book below. I'm going to recommend pick up a copy. I'd recommend picking up 10 or 20 copies and just giving them away to anybody who works with reaching the next generation in your church, because it's worth it. It's a valuable thing. You get on Crossway, you get discounts for ordering in bulk. That's what I did. So check out this book. Reach the next generation. Focus on the right things. Don't focus on the wrong things. I'm passionate about this, and I hope you will be too. So I thank you all for joining me. I hope to see y'all next time.